Zan lived alone in the broken colony of Zone 17. His house was made of scrap metal and quiet memories. Nothing exciting ever happened there. And that was exactly how Zan liked it. Outside, the wind howled through empty streets. Dust danced under the moonlight like ghosts from the past. It was midnight and Zan sat at his small table, eating cold soup from a can. The world had forgotten this place, and he had learned to forget it too. Then someone knocked. At first Zan froze. No one knocked at his door. No one ever came to Zone 17. He looked at the door, heart pounding. The knock came again, soft, quick, almost scared. Zan stood up slowly and walked to the door. He unlocked the bolt and opened it just a little. A girl stood there, her body shaking, eyes wide with fear. "I can cook," she whispered. "I can clean. I can be quiet." Zan blinked, confused. The girl looked young, maybe 16 or 17. She wore a thin, dirty robe, and her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Her hands were small and scratched, her lips pale. "What do you want?" he asked, still unsure if this was a trick. "Please," she said, "I won't cause trouble. I just need to stay somewhere safe." Zan hesitated. Then he heard something in the distance. Mechanical wings slicing through air. A red drone flew past, scanning the ground with a red beam. The girl looked at it and stepped back, terrified. "They're looking for me," she whispered. "Please let me in." Against his better judgment, Zan opened the door fully and stepped aside. The girl rushed in, quiet as a shadow. Zan closed the door and locked it again. "What's your name?" he asked, walking to the control panel to shut down outside scanners. She hesitated, then said, "Elia." Zan turned around and looked at her closely. She stood in the corner like a frightened animal. She didn't ask for food or water. She didn't speak again. She just stood there, watching him with careful eyes. "Sit," he said, pointing to the chair across the table. She sat slowly, folding her hands in her lap. Her legs were trembling, but she stayed quiet just like she promised. Zan placed another can of soup on the table and handed her a spoon. She took it and ate in small, quiet bites. "Where did you come from?" he asked. She looked down. "I ran away," she said softly. "I was owned before." Zan's stomach turned. Slavery had been banned long ago, but in the outer colonies, rules didn't always matter. "Why here?" he asked. "I heard no one comes here," she said. "That it's empty." He looked at her, then sighed. "Well, you're not wrong," he muttered after eating. She helped clean the table without being asked. She found the water pump and washed the dishes quietly. Zan watched her, unsure what to say or do. Later that night, he gave her a thin blanket and told her to sleep on the old couch. She nodded, curled up small, and closed her eyes. Zan couldn't sleep. He sat in his chair thinking, who was this girl? Why was she being hunted? And why did she say those strange words like she had memorized them? "I can cook, I can clean, I can be quiet." It didn't sound like freedom, it sounded like programming. He looked over at her, sleeping, her face peaceful now. But something about her felt off, not wrong, just hidden. Suddenly a red light blinked on his wall panel. A drone was scanning the outside of the house. Zan got up quickly, turned off all inside lights, and activated his shield mesh. The girl woke up with a gasp, looking around. "They're here," she whispered. "They're looking for me again." Zan nodded. "Don't move. Don't speak." He grabbed his old blaster from the wall. Just in case, the drone passed over the roof, paused, then hovered for a few seconds. Then it moved on. Zan waited 5 more minutes before speaking again. "You brought trouble to my door," he said. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to, I had no place else." He looked at her, saw the fear in her eyes and sighed. "You can stay," he said finally, "but if things get dangerous, I throw you out." "I understand," she said softly, pulling the blanket closer. "I'll be quiet," and she was. All night, not a sound, but outside, above the clouds, a black ship waited. It had found a trail. It had marked a house in Zone 17, and it was coming back. Zan woke before the sun rose. He had barely slept. The air inside the small house felt heavy, like something unseen was watching. He looked toward the couch. The girl, Elia, was still there, curled up like a small animal. Her silver eyes were closed, her chest rising and falling gently. She looked peaceful, but Zan didn't trust peace anymore. He had seen how fast calm could turn into chaos. He moved to the kitchen, heating old water over the solar plate. The silence felt strange now. He had lived alone for 5 years, by choice now with just one visitor. The silence felt like it had been broken forever. Behind him, Elia stirred. She sat up slowly. Blinking at the weak morning light, Zan turned to look at her. "You hungry?" he asked. She nodded once. He poured 2 cups of hot water and added dried root powder. It wasn't a real meal, but it was warm. Elia took the cup with both hands and sipped slowly. Zan studied her again. She moved gently, like someone trained to avoid making noise. Every movement had purpose, like she was following instructions. "You said you were owned," Zan said, keeping his voice calm. "What does that mean?" Aaliyah looked down into her cup, then she whispered, "They called us servant-class prototypes." Zan felt a chill. "You're not human, are you?" he asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. "I was made in a lab, not born," she said. "Part organic, part machine." Zan sat back, his eyes scanning her again. She didn't look like a machine. She didn't talk like a robot. She looked tired, scared, and very, very real. "Why did you come to me?" he asked. "I didn't choose you," she said softly. "I chose a door that was still standing." Zan smirked at that. "Fair enough." Elia placed the cup down. She pulled her robe aside and pointed to the side of her neck. Zan leaned closer. There it was, a tiny circular mark. "Glowing faintly blue, that's my tracker," she said. "But I jammed it for now." "For now?" Zan repeated. "How long?" "Maybe a day," she replied. "After that, they'll find me again?" Zan rubbed his face with both hands. "I didn't ask for this," he muttered. "I know," she said. "But you opened the door." Zan looked at her. That one sentence hit harder than it should have after breakfast. Zan took her outside, through the hidden trapdoor behind his house. It led underground into a forgotten maintenance tunnel. "This place used to carry power cables," he said. "No scanners work here." They walked in silence for a while. Old metal creaked under their feet. Zan used a torch to light the way. "Why are they chasing you?" he finally asked. Elia's voice echoed softly in the tunnel. "Because I broke something," she said. "Not machines, my programming." "What do you mean?" "They trained us to follow orders," she said. "But one day a little girl dropped her food and I picked it up before anyone told me to." Zan stopped walking. "That's it?" Elia nodded. "They called it a malfunction," she said. "I called it choice." Zan didn't reply for a long time. Only the sound of dripping water filled the tunnel. At the end of the passage, Zan opened a rusted door. Inside was an old workshop filled with broken drones and dusty weapons. "This is my bunker," he said. "No one knows about it." Elia stepped inside. Looking around, her eyes lit up when she saw the tools. The parts, the wires. "You build things," she said with wonder. "I fix things," Zan replied. "Big difference. Can you fix me?" she asked suddenly, turning to him. Zan froze. "What do you mean?" "I want to stop being what they made me," she said. "I want to be something else." He didn't know how to answer. Fixing machines was one thing. Fixing a living person, that was something else entirely. "You said you're part machine," he said. "How much?" "I don't know," she said, "but I bleed, I dream. I get scared." Zan stared at her, then he said, "Those sound pretty human to me." Elia smiled, a small, real smile. It was the first time he saw her face relax. They spent the day in the bunker. Zan showed her how to hold a screwdriver. Elia watched closely, then copied his motions perfectly. "You learn fast," he said, surprised. "I was designed that way," she replied, then added, "But now I choose what I learn." As the day ended, they returned to the house, but the peace didn't last that night. The screen on Zan's wall flickered. A message appeared, written in bold red letters, "Reclaimer en route. Prepare unit for return." Zan's blood ran cold. Elia read it over his shoulder, her hands shaking. "They found me," she whispered. "They're coming." Zan didn't speak. He just walked to the wall, took down his old blaster, and checked the charge. Elia stood behind him, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm not just a girl," she said. "I'm a problem they want to erase." Zan looked at her. "No," he said quietly. "You're a person they didn't expect to fight back." Outside, far above the clouds, a shadow moved across the sky. The reclaimer was coming, and next time it wouldn't just knock. The wind outside howled louder that night. Zan didn't sleep. He sat in the dark, blaster on the table, eyes fixed on the wall screen. Elia sat across the room, legs pulled close, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She didn't speak, she just stared at the floor. Quiet like always, but inside her something was changing. Zan stood and walked to his tool cabinet. He pulled out a small scanner, old, scratched but still working. "Come here," he said, voice low. "Let me see the mark again." Elia hesitated, then nodded. She turned her head and moved her hair aside, revealing the spot behind her ear. The faint blue circle was still there, pulsing slowly like a sleeping heartbeat. Zan held the scanner close. The screen blinked once, then filled with strange symbols, language he couldn't read. He frowned, adjusting the settings. "This isn't human tech," he muttered. "I told you," Aaliyah said. "They built me differently." Zan leaned in, watching the symbols move. Suddenly, the scanner beeped. Red warning lights flashed. "Biolink active," the screen said. "Remote signal pending." "They're still connected to this," Zan said. Stepping back, "This mark, it's not just a tracker. It's a door." Elia's hands began to shake. "If they open that door, I'll go back to them," she whispered. "Even if I don't want to." Zan stared at her. "What do you mean?" "There's code in my head," she said slowly. "Commands buried deep, hidden even from me. They can pull me back if they speak the right words. Can you stop it?" She looked at him, pain in her eyes. "No," she said. "But maybe you can." Zan didn't know what to say. He wasn't a scientist or a soldier anymore. He was just a man who fixed broken machines. But Elia wasn't a machine, she was something in between, and too human to throw away. He took a breath. "Let's open you up," he said quietly. Elia nodded without fear. "I trust you," she whispered. They moved back down into the hidden workshop. Zan placed her in the reclining chair and connected wires to the scanner port behind her ear. Clea closed her eyes, breathing slowly. "Don't talk," he said gently. "Just stay still." He ran the scanner again, this time with deep access. A map appeared. Her neural network was glowing, and in the center of it a black box pulsed like a locked heart. Zan touched the screen. The box pushed back hard. Error messages filled the display. "Whoever built you," he whispered, "didn't want anyone getting in here." Elia twitched slightly, a tear running down her cheek. Zan paused. "Hand hovering over the controls, you okay?" "Yes," she whispered. "It hurts a little. But I'm still here." He tried another method, bypassed the security wall, used manual code override. Slowly, the box began to open. Inside, lines of commands scrolled like dark poetry. Obey, kneel, silence, return, and deep at the bottom, 3 glowing symbols. Zan didn't recognize the language, but as soon as he looked at them, Elia's body stiffened, her eyes opened wide, and her voice turned flat. "Directive received," she said coldly, returning to owner. "No," Zan said, panicking. "Elia, fight it." But she didn't move. Her arms dropped, her face blank. Zan reached for the scanner controls and hit the emergency shutoff. The power surged, the lights in the workshop flickered, then popped. Elia gasped, her body jerking. Then she fell forward into Zan's arms, breathing fast. I heard them," she whispered. "In my head." "But you're still here," Zan said, holding her close. "You didn't go back." She looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "You pulled me back." He helped her stand, her legs weak beneath her. They sat together on the cold floor. "Surrounded by tools and shadows, I need to remove the mark," Zan said. "Completely," Elia shook her head. "If you cut it, it could kill me." "Then I'll block it," he said. "Find a way to cover the signal." "You'll need a Faraday core," she said. "And those don't exist out here." Zan stood and walked to a dusty box in the corner. He opened it and pulled out a round metal disc, scratched and half-burnt. "Like this?" he asked. Elia's eyes widened. "That's from an old war drone," she said. "It could work," Zan smiled. "Never throw away junk." They worked through the night. Zan soldered wires while Elia held them steady. Her hands stopped shaking now, her breath calm when the device was ready. He placed it gently against the mark on her neck. The blue circle flickered, then dimmed. Elia touched the spot, her fingers trembling. "I can't hear them anymore," she whispered. "It's quiet," Zan nodded. "Good," he said. "That's how it should be," but just then, a deep hum filled the air. The ground shook slightly, and dust fell from the ceiling. Zan ran upstairs, opened the hatch, and looked into the sky. A shadow was passing over the moon, massive. Silent, deadly, the reclaimer had arrived. He slammed the hatch shut and turned to Elia. "They found us anyway." Elia didn't cry. She stood tall now, no longer shaking. "I'm not going back," she said. "Not this time." Zan looked at her, really looked, and saw the truth. She was no longer a servant, no longer a runaway. She was becoming something else, something free. But freedom always comes with a price. and the reclaimer was ready to collect it. The ground kept shaking. Zan and Elia stood in silence listening to the low, vibrating hum. It wasn't thunder. It was the reclaimer. Zan ran to the control panel, his fingers flying over the buttons. He shut off all signals, blacked out the house, and locked down the windows. The lights died, leaving only darkness and breath. "We need to leave," Zan said. Grabbing a bag of tools and wires, Elia didn't move. Her face was calm, but her hands were clenched into fists. "You don't understand," she whispered. "The reclaimer doesn't just search. It destroys everything around its target." Zan stared at her. "How much time do we have?" Elia turned her head, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "If it uses standard search protocol, 10 minutes, Zan cursed under his breath. He grabbed a second bag, this one full of old war tech, and tossed it to her. "We're going underground," he said, "now." They rushed through the trapdoor behind the storage unit. The tunnel lights blinked on as their feet hit the metal floor. Behind them, the house above started to rumble. Zan led her deeper into the second level of the old war bunker. It had once stored explosives and shield cores. Now it was just cold and forgotten. Elia placed the Faraday patch back over the mark on her neck. Even with it, she felt the reclaimer's presence. It was calling her. Softly, like a whisper in her bones. "Stay here," Zan said, loading his blaster. "Lock the doors behind me. Where are you going?" she asked quickly. "To activate the old defense tower," he replied. "It still has one shot left, and that shot can buy us time." "You'll die if they see you," she said, stepping in front of him. "I'll die anyway if I let them take you," he answered, then paused. "I opened the door for you, Elia, and I'm not closing it now." Zan turned and disappeared into the side tunnel. Elia stood there for a second, then backed into the workshop and sealed the metal doors. Zan climbed the rusty ladder to the old tower. The wind slammed against the hatch as he pushed it open. He emerged under the night sky, face cold, heart steady. The reclaimer floated above his home, a silent black machine the size of a ship. No lights, no sound, just death in the air. Zan crawled toward the defense system, an ancient plasma cannon hidden beneath metal plates. He entered the manual codes, hoping it still worked. The machine groaned to life, screen flickering. "Target acquired," it said, locking onto the reclaimer. Zan didn't wait. He hit the fire button. A huge beam of white-blue light shot into the sky. It slammed into the reclaimer's lower side. Cutting through armor, the reclaimer shook, its silence broken by a deep mechanical roar. It fired back. One beam of red energy hit the side of the hill. Throwing Zan backwards, smoke filled the air. Zan's ears rang. He crawled down the ladder, coughing, half-blind, in the workshop below. Elia watched the monitors. The reclaimer had been hit but not destroyed. It was now fully awake, scanning with sharp red lines. Zan stumbled through the door, his shirt burned. "I bought us maybe 2 minutes," he gasped. Elia helped him sit down. Then her hands moved quickly, grabbing wires, a cracked CPU chip, and the small power crystal from his gear bag. "What are you doing?" Zan asked. "Building something illegal," she said. "Something I wasn't allowed to know how to make." In just 60 seconds, she constructed a small device that blinked green. "What is that?" "A mirror," she said. "It will reflect their signal." "Make it look like I'm 10 miles west," Zan smiled weakly. "Smart girl," he said. "I choose to be," she replied. Placing the device into a drone shell, she launched the drone from the back exit. It flew into the sky, then turned west. The reclaimer followed, moving slowly, like a predator chasing prey. They watched the screens as the red scanners faded. The ship was leaving, but just before it vanished over the mountains, it dropped something. "A ground unit," Elia whispered. "They're not done yet." Zan stood with effort. "We'll handle it," he said. "One problem at a time." Elia looked at him. Her voice was soft but firm. "You didn't run." "I don't run from things I let in," he said. Elia smiled faintly, then walked to the storage shelf. She picked up a glove, slid it on, and activated the shock plates. "What are you doing?" Zan asked, raising an eyebrow. "I'm done hiding," she said. "If they want me, they better bring more than fear." For the first time, Zan didn't see a scared girl. He saw someone ready to fight, and outside, in the cold shadows of the desert, the ground unit began to move. It wasn't a soldier, it wasn't even alive. It was something built for one purpose: to bring the runaway back, alive or in pieces. The bunker was silent again, but something had changed in the air. Elia moved with purpose now. She wasn't hiding in shadows or whispering quietly. She walked across the workshop like someone who knew her place. And for the first time, Zan didn't see her as a runaway. He saw her as a survivor. They spent the morning checking gear, scanning the nearby tunnels the reclaimer had left. But its ground unit was still moving somewhere outside. Slow, steady, hunting. Elia adjusted the pulse glove on her hand. Her face was calm, but something inside her was turning. Zan noticed it too. "You okay?" he asked. She paused, then nodded. "Yes," she said. "But something feels different." They returned to the small kitchen corner and shared a simple meal. Zan talked about his old life, his time before Zone 17. He told her how he lost people in the war, how the silence of the bunker had once felt like peace. Elia listened, then said, "I never had it before." Zan blinked. "No family?" "I was activated 3 years ago," she said. "Trained to serve, not to remember. And now? I'm starting to remember things that weren't in the program," she said softly. "Smells, sounds, feelings. Like this place," she added. "It feels like something real." Zan didn't know what to say. But her voice was different now, slower. More human, he thought. Maybe she really was changing. Later that evening, while Zan was fixing the motion sensors outside the bunker, Elia sat at the workbench alone. She picked up a small broken drone and began to fix it. She didn't plan to. She didn't even know what all the parts did, but her hands moved like they remembered. Then it happened. Her body froze. Her fingers stopped mid-motion. Her eyes stared straight ahead, empty. Inside her mind, a screen appeared. "System update initiating protocol reset." "No," she whispered inside her thoughts, but her voice didn't work. Her body didn't move back in the hallway. Zan felt a strange static in the air. He rushed to the workshop and found her still, eyes blank. "Elia!" he shouted, rushing to her side. She didn't respond. Her lips moved slowly, repeating something silently. Zan grabbed the scanner and connected it to the port behind her ear. The screen flashed red, "Reboot in progress. Memories will be erased." "No." No, Zan said, trying to break into the code. He opened the firewall, activated the Faraday patch again. It wasn't working. She was slipping away. "Don't let them take you," he whispered. "Not after everything," inside Elia's mind. She stood in darkness, voices called to her. "You were made to obey. You are not real. You don't belong there." But another voice spoke, soft but strong. "Elia." She turned. It was Zan's voice, echoing in the dark. "Come back." She reached toward it. The dark tried to pull her away. The commands got louder. "Obey, return, erase," but she shouted back, "No. I'm not a tool. I'm not yours anymore. Outside." Zan saw the screen flicker. Then the reboot stopped. The red alerts disappeared. Elia gasped, blinking fast. She looked at him, her eyes filling with tears. "I was in the dark," she whispered. "But I found my way back." Zan held her shoulders. "You fought it," he said. "You broke the program, I think." "I did," she said softly. "But the break left something behind." "What do you mean?" She picked up the drone again and fixed it in seconds. Her hands were faster now, too fast. "I can feel my mind racing," she said. "I know how things work." Before I even look at them, Zan stared. She's evolving, he thought, whatever she is. She's becoming more suddenly. The alarm flashed, movement near the lower tunnel. Zan ran to the screen. "It's here," he said. "The ground unit." Elia stood up, her body calm again. But her eyes were different now, brighter, sharper, focused. "I'll face it," she said. "No," Zan said quickly. "Let me." But she shook her head. "I have to finish this." Zan handed her his shock blade. She took it with steady hands. "If I don't come back," she began. "You will," he said firmly, "because you broke your chains, and that makes you stronger than them." She gave him a small smile and turned toward the exit. Her steps were quiet but sure. She wasn't a servant anymore. She was something new, something dangerous. And outside, in the cold tunnel, the ground unit waited, heavy, tall, full of deadly purpose, but for the first time, Elia didn't feel fear. She felt fire, and it was finally time to burn down her past. The tunnel was narrow and dark. The air was still, but Elia felt the vibration beneath her feet. The ground unit was close. She could hear its metal legs moving, slow and heavy. It wasn't searching, it knew where she was. Zan watched from the bunker, his eyes fixed on the monitor. Hands clenched tight. He wanted to go after her, but she had asked him to stay. "She's not running anymore," he whispered. "She's rewriting her story." Down in the tunnel, Elia walked with her head high. The glow from her pulse glove lit the path ahead. Her other hand held the shock blade steady, then she saw it. The ground unit stood almost 7 feet tall. Its body was a twisted mix of armor and tech. Its head turned as soon as it saw her. A red beam scanned her body. Unit 731, return for system reset, it said in a flat voice. No, she replied, her voice strong. I am not your unit. Obedience failure detected, the machine responded. Overriding free will, it raised one of its arms, and a set of cables shot out toward her. Elia dodged left, the cables crashing into the wall beside her. She jumped forward, slashing the wires with her blade. The machine adjusted fast, a second arm swung like a hammer. It struck the ground and cracked the stone. Elia rolled under the strike and hit the core panel with her glove. Electricity surged through the machine, but it didn't fall. It turned, glowing brighter. Override failed, it said coldly. Backup control active. Suddenly, pain exploded in Elia's head. She screamed, dropping the blade. Voices echoed inside her mind again. Return. Obey. Reset. She fell to her knees. Hands grabbing her head, the connection had been reopened from the inside. The mark on her neck had been reactivated. Back in the bunker, Zan saw her fall on the screen. He didn't think twice. He grabbed his neural cord, strapped on his damaged exosuit and ran. His legs hurt. His lungs burned, but he kept moving. He reached the tunnel just in time to see the machine raise its arm again, and Elia on the ground shaking. No, Zan yelled. He leapt forward and slammed his blaster into the unit's shoulder. The shot barely made it move. Zan dropped beside her. She looked at him with pain-filled eyes. They're in my head again, she whispered. I can't stop it this time. Yes, you can, he said, pulling the neural cord from his suit. I'm not letting them take you. What are you doing? Connecting my brain to yours, he said. If your code is breaking, I'll share mine, Elia gasped. That's too dangerous. Your system could collapse. Maybe, he said. But maybe we'll win. He connected the cord to the port on her neck, then linked the other end to the implant in his spine. Lights flashed. Pain shot through both of them. Their minds connected. 2 different worlds crashing into one. Zan saw the darkness inside her, the endless walls of commands, the repeating loops, the forced obedience, and in the center, a locked cage holding Elia's true self. He reached for it. The commands attacked him. You do not belong here. System reject, human brain unfit. But Zan didn't care. He pushed forward. He grabbed the cage with both hands and shouted, She is not yours. Elia, inside her own mind, heard his voice like thunder. She looked up from the corner where she had been hiding. Zan was there, breaking her chain. She ran toward him. Together. They pulled the cage open. The command screamed. The code collapsed back in the tunnel. The machine froze. Its red lights flickered. The control signal went silent. Elia opened her eyes. She sat up slowly. The mark on her neck was now dark, silent, dead. Zan lay beside her, unconscious. She touched his face. His heartbeat was weak but steady. You shared your mind to save mine, she whispered. Now I'll protect yours. She stood and turned to face the ground unit. It rebooted, but slower now. She raised her hand, fingers glowing with new energy. She spoke one word. Sleep. A wave of energy blasted from her palm. The machine collapsed in front of her, lifeless. Zan groaned, slowly waking. You did it, he said, voice weak. No, she whispered, helping him up. We did it. They walked back to the bunker side by side. No chains, no code, no orders, just choice. Later that night, as Zan rested in bed, Elia stood outside the bunker. She looked at the stars above, free for the first time in her life. But freedom was only the beginning. Something inside her had awakened. Something powerful, and she had no idea what would come next. Morning came slowly. The desert was quiet again, as if the world had paused to breathe. Inside the bunker, Zan opened his eyes, blinking at the soft light pouring in from the ceiling vents. For a moment, he didn't remember anything. Then the memory hit him like a wave. The connection, the mind link, Elia's scream. The collapsing machine. He sat up, groaning. His head heavy beside his bed. Someone had left a warm drink, a folded cloth, and a note. Still here, it said in small, neat handwriting. Not going anywhere, Zan smiled. He stood and walked slowly into the workshop. Elia was there, sitting cross-legged on the floor. She had taken apart the entire ground unit. Its pieces were now scattered neatly across the room. Its power core lay still, silent, defeated. You took it apart? he asked, voice still rough. I studied it, she replied without looking up. I wanted to know what made it obey. Zan leaned against the wall watching her. She looked peaceful now, but something in her eyes had changed. She wasn't a runaway anymore. She wasn't even a servant, she was herself. You saved me, he said quietly. You saved me first, she replied. Back at the door, Zan nodded slowly. That night feels like years ago. It was the night I began to wake up, she said. The night someone gave me a choice. They sat in silence for a while. Just the sound of tools clinking, metal pieces being sorted. Then Zan said, You know they'll send more. I know, she replied. But now I'm ready. What will you do? I don't know, she said honestly. I could run, I could hide, I could even fight. But for now, she paused and looked at him. I want to stay. Zan raised an eyebrow. Here? She nodded. This place, it's quiet, but it's full of truth. You don't ask me to be anything, she added. You just let me be. Zan walked to the bench, picked up a metal ring, and placed it on the table. Well, he said, if you're staying, you'll need proper tools, Aaliyah smiled. It was small but real. She took the ring and began attaching wires to it. You know, she said softly, they gave me 1,000 commands, but none of them ever taught me how to smile. Zan looked at her. You figured it out. Aaliyah touched the side of her neck where the mark used to glow. It was almost invisible now, just a faint scar. I used to think that Mark was who I was, she said, but now, I think what I do next matters more. That afternoon, they stepped outside the bunker. The sky was wide and blue. No ships, no drones, no eyes watching. Only wind and silence. Zan showed her how to plant signal blockers in the sand. They worked together side by side. She learned fast. But now she laughed when she got things wrong. She wasn't trying to be perfect anymore. She was trying to be real. As the sun dropped behind the hills, they returned to the bunker. Zan made soup. Aaliyah added spices she found from old storage. Strange. Sweet and sharp. It tastes like freedom, she said. Grinning, Zan laughed. You're strange, he said. She tilted her head. I'm learning that strange is not always bad. Later that night, Zan sat by the monitor checking signals. No threats, no messages. The world had gone quiet again. Aaliyah walked in and sat beside him. I used to think quiet meant loneliness, she said. But now it feels different. It means peace, Zan replied. Even if just for now, she looked at him. If you ever told me to leave, I would. Zan turned to her, serious. I won't, he said. Not unless you want to, she nodded slowly. I don't, she said. I want to stay, not because I'm told, not because I'm afraid, but because I choose to. They didn't say much after that. They didn't need to, in that quiet bunker on a forgotten planet. 2 lives had changed. A girl who had been built to obey learned to fight, then learned to feel. A man who had locked the world outside opened his door, and found something he didn't know he had lost, hope. Far above them, the stars burned silently. No ships came, no machines landed, but if they did, they would find something waiting, something they couldn't control. A bond stronger than code, a girl who had rewritten her own future, and a man who had stood beside her the whole way. Zan looked at her one last time before turning off the lights. You're not going anywhere, huh? Aaliyah smiled and whispered, I chose to stay.